Elliot Crane pushed open the heavy courtroom door. The hinges sighed, and his sneakers clicked once on polished stone. A sly smile angled across his face, too confident for a probation review. "Hey," he said, bright and breezy. "At least I showed up. 90% of justice is attendance, right?" No one laughed. Judge Celeste Rowan looked down from the bench, posture straight, voice steady. "Mr. Crane, this is not open mic night." Paper rustled. Clerk Maya Johnson flipped a file with clean precision. Defendant Elliot Crane, 2 prior violations during probation, 40% of restitution paid, 2 missed payments, revocation eligible. The word hung there, eligible. Near the door, the bailiff's key ring chimed. Somewhere behind the paneling, a holding cell latch thudded from another case. Elliot's smile wavered, then returned, thinner. He lifted a hand like a lecturer warming up. "Your Honor, I read that intent matters. Mine was to keep community morale high. You could call it preventive medicine." He pointed gently toward the gallery. "Laughter heals." Still no laughter. At the prosecution table, Nora Whitaker stood, cool and contained. "The state will show a pattern of non-compliance and seek custody if it continues." Tom Rourke, the defense attorney, didn't bother with a whisper. He slid a small card across the table. 3 blunt words in block letters. "Stop talking now." When Elliot glanced at it and smirked, Tom pressed his palm on the card like a paperweight, then raised his eyes to the bench. "Your Honor, may I confer with my client for a brief moment?" "You may," Judge Rowan said, "but he should start by listening." Tom leaned in, voice low but firm enough to carry. "Elliot, this isn't improv. Every sentence is a brick. You don't want to build a cell." He tapped a legal pad where he had drawn a simple box. 4 lines, a door, the sketch of a key just out of reach. Elliot swallowed, then tried one more angle. "I mean, I'm here voluntarily, which should count for cooperation. If cooperation has value, maybe we call that—" Rowan's gaze cut the sentence in half. She rested one hand near the gavel. "In this courtroom, Mr. Crane, humor carries weight. It lands as arrogance." The clock ticked. The bailiff shifted. Nora stacked her folders with crisp alignment. Maya adjusted a cable on the side monitor. Blue light touched her wrist like a small tide. Elliot's eyes drifted to the ceiling camera. He flashed another quick grin, searching for an audience. Nothing answered back. Maya closed the file. "Your Honor, the community service cleanup video is ready for review." Rowan nodded once. "We'll reach that soon." Tom cleared his throat. "The defense asks the court to consider the defendant's employment setbacks and his plan to complete restitution." Nora replied without turning her head. "The plan has 2 missed payments. The record will show it." Elliot rubbed his jaw, then tried to dress his tone in logic. "If restitution is about making things whole, isn't public goodwill part of that? "Stop," Tom said, not unkindly, but with the finality of a slammed book. He slid the water bottle toward his client like a lifeline. "Sip. Listen." Rowan's eyes didn't soften. "Mr. Crane, probation is a promise. When you break it, custody is not theoretical." She lifted the gavel an inch and set it back down without striking. The soundless gesture hit harder than a bang. Elliot looked at the defense table, the neat pens, the waiting pad, the small card under Tom's hand. The room seemed larger now. The distance to the bench felt like a climb. Maya glanced to Nora. Ready when the court is. Proceed, Judge Rowan said, voice low and final. As the monitor flickered to life beside the witness stand, the color drained from Elliot's smile. Whatever came next wasn't part of the act. He tried to wear that grin one more time. For the first time, it didn't land anywhere. Nora Whitaker stood at the lectern, voice clean and spare. Westbrook Park fence was toppled, probation ordered, community service assigned, restitution at 40%, 2 missed payments. Revocation eligible. Tom Rourke rose with an even tone. He's a young man finding his way. He's working, he fell behind, and he intends to make it right. Elliot leaned toward the mic with a grin. At least I made the place famous. Tom didn't hide the wince. Please stop helping the state. Nora turned a page to the ledger. 40% paid, then nothing again. She glanced to Maya. Return debits? 2, Maya said. Notice mailed and signed. Elliot tried for lightness. I spent on better jokes. The gavel tapped once, measured, final. Mr. Crane, Judge Rowan said, you're driving your own case into a wall. Nora kept going, steady as a metronome. The city's invoice covers materials and labor. The fence lines a slope near a playground. Crews added temporary barriers. Tom stepped forward, shifting from defense to initiative. Your Honor, the defense will stipulate to the restitution amount today and file a written payment schedule by week's end. My client can make a same-day payment toward arrears before leaving the building. For the first time, Nora paused. It wasn't dramatic, just a small crease between her brows and a quick restack of her papers, as if sliding the strategy to a new column. Then she nodded. Noted. Rowan studied Tom. Good, but promises will not replace the record. Nora lifted a single printout. And the record isn't just numbers. Exhibit N, a public post from the defendant's account the morning after the damage. Caption reads, Public art upgrade. You're welcome. Followed by 3 crying, laughing emojis. The clip ends with, Tag the city so they don't miss the joke. A low ripple moved through the gallery. Tom didn't flinch. To avoid delay, the defense stipulates foundation and authenticity for the post. No quibble. Nora's eyes flicked up, another brief tell, then settled. The state appreciates the stipulation. Tom pressed on, still active. With the court's permission, we'll also submit a revised plan adding extra community service hours beyond the minimum. My client needs structure. He's asking for it. Rowan's gaze cooled to neutral. Structure is useful when it is kept. Elliot leaned toward the mic, stung but stubborn. I showed up today. That's a start. Judging compliance by attendance, Nora said, is like calling a blueprint a building. She tapped the ledger. We'll show a pattern. Missed payments, missed check-ins, and mockery outside this room. A post inviting the city to enjoy the joke. That's not carelessness. That's contempt. Tom lifted a hand. And we'll show that insight can follow bad choices. Today. Rowan nodded once. Keep it to the record. We'll reach the video shortly. Maya moved to the projector. The blue standby screen washed the side wall. 3 sources in sequence, she said. City entrance camera, neighbor's phone, the defendant's post. Timestamps are synchronized. Tom used the beat before playback. He set a money order form on his pad, already half filled, and slid a pen to Elliot. Act, not argue, he said quietly. Elliot stared at the form as if it were a mirror. For a second, his hand hovered above the pen and trembled. Barely, but enough to make the metal clip shiver in the light. He looked at Tom, then at the bench. The grin didn't come. He picked up the pen. Rowan watched without comment. "Mr. Rourke, ensure any payment is recorded before adjournment." "Yes, Your Honor." Nora closed the ledger, resetting herself with a neat motion. The small crease in her brow smoothed out. "For clarity, the state isn't asking for outrage. We're asking for accountability. The video goes to impact and to the defendant's own words." Tom nodded. "And the defense is done talking until the record speaks." Rowan turned to Maya. "Prepare the playback." Maya dimmed the aisle lights a shade, enough to make the screen feel like the room's only window. She held the remote like a conductor's baton, steady, neutral. "Ready when the court is." "Proceed," Rowan said. The blank blue yielded to a frozen frame. The park entrance at night. The fence leaning where it should have stood straight. In the corner, a digital clock waited to start. The bailiff shifted near the door. Keys chimed once and went still. Elliot's eyes caught the screen's cold light, turning glassy. He set the pen down slowly, careful not to let it clatter, and kept his hand on the paper like it might slide away if he didn't hold it. Nora stepped out of the beam and kept her voice level. "Playback begins at 22:14 hours. Tom angled his chair closer, not to shield, but to stand beside. "Watch," he murmured. "Then fix." The counter on the monitor started. The footage moved. The record did what records do. It remembered. And for the first time, Elliot let it. He didn't fill the silence. He listened. The screen held a night frame of Westbrook Park, a leaning fence, cold streetlight, a clock in the corner waiting to move. "Play," Judge Rowan said. The timestamp clicked to 22:14. Figures in hoodies flashed through the city camera's wide angle. A clatter of chain link, a quick sway, and the fence buckled out of place. "City entrance camera," Maya said. "Fixed position, no audio." Rowan nodded. "Next source." The view jumped to a handheld phone. Closer, shakier. A walkway. A tilted park sign. Laughter too near the mic. "Neighbor phone," Maya said. "Audio present?" Two young men slid into frame. One in a gray hoodie. A nudge, a point toward the fence, a voice off camera. "Tag the city so they don't miss the joke." "Faces aren't clear," Tom said, cautious, not combative. "Pause," Maya answered. She tapped the remote. The image froze on a passing hand mid-gesture. Zoom. The wrist filled the screen, pale skin. A thin black wave of ink breaking to a dot near the thumb. Tom's eyes moved to his client's hand. Elliot looked down at his own wrist as if it had just turned into evidence, then tucked it under the table edge on reflex. "Marker identified," Maya said. "Third source," Rowan said. Vertical video appeared. Close, breathy wind in the mic. The bent fence, the leaning sign, ground lights blinking beyond the slope. Across the bottom, a caption, "Public Art Upgrade. You're welcome," followed by a row of laughing faces. At the top, the defendant's handle. Beneath the frame, the location tag, Westbrook Park. "Defendant's post," Maya said. "Geotag Westbrook Park. Posted 22/27. "It's out of context," Elliot said, smaller than before. Maya slid a timeline into view. 3 slim tracks, one for each source. She scrubbed with her thumb. City Cam 22:14, Neighbor Phone 22:15, Defendant Post 22:27, all synchronized. Rowan leaned toward the glow. Context has a clock. Silence took the room. The bailiff didn't move. Nora stood off the projector beam, hands loose at her sides. Tom rested 2 fingers on the back of Elliot's chair and left them there, steadying, not steering. "Continue," Rowan said. Maya let the neighbor phone roll 10 seconds. The laughter thinned and died. She stopped it clean. Nora stepped to the lectern and set down a single sheet. "City maintenance invoice," she said. "Materials and labor to restore the fence and secure the slope. The amount exceeds what's been paid." "Ledger," Rowan said. 40% paid," Maya answered. 2 returns. No activity since." She didn't linger. She closed the spreadsheet. Rowan looked from the sheet to the screen. "We'll take the invoice as the baseline for restitution." "Understood," Tom said. Nora tapped her tablet. "Victim statement, recorded, Mr. George Hall." Audio filled the room with a soft room echo. A breath, then an older man's voice, careful and kind. "I cleaned it up myself," he said. "Bags, the heavier pieces. Didn't want kids seeing a mess in the morning. Hands were buzzing the next day. Doctor told me not to lift. That part's on me. I'm stubborn." A small laugh, apologizing for existing. "I'm not angry at the boy. Just fix the fence. Move the jokes somewhere else." Elliot didn't only slump. He reacted like the words hit a switch inside his chest. He lifted both hands without thinking and studied them. Palms up, then down, almost checking for the tremor he'd just heard about. When he set them back on the table, his right hand drifted to his wrist and hovered over the tattoo, as if a thumb pressed there might erase it. The corner of his mouth twitched once, not toward a smirk, toward something he didn't have a name for. Tom didn't speak. He made silence visible. He capped his pen with a soft click, closed his legal pad, and folded his hands on top of it. He slid his chair back 1/2 inch so the mic wouldn't catch his breath. It was the clearest signal a lawyer can send. No objection. Let this land. "The state moves to admit all 3 videos and the invoice," Nora said, voice level. "Defense?" Rowan asked. "Foundation and authenticity stipulated," Tom replied. "No objection." "Admitted," Rowan said. "The videos are part of the record. The invoice will guide restitution." Maya recorded the ruling with 2 neat ticks of her pen. Nora looked to Elliot, not unkindly. 3 angles, same story. Elliot kept his eyes on the table. The money order form lay to his right. He eased his shaking hand away from the tattoo and set his palm over the form instead. His fingers smoothed the paper once, like calming a crease. Rowan spoke to him directly. "Mr. Crane, the court is not weighing your cleverness. It is weighing what you did, where you did it, and what you have failed to repair." He nodded, a small movement that still counted. "We proceed to compliance," Rowan said. "Missed check-ins. Plan forward." Maya set the remote down and let the screen go blue again. The room seemed to breathe out and hold. Tom angled his body so Elliot could see him without looking up. "You heard him," he said quietly. "Fix the fence you made, not the story you told." Elliot's jaw moved once, a swallow he didn't hide. He reached for the pen, paused, then took it anyway. Rowan waited the length of a heartbeat. "Counsel, keep your submissions concise. We are measuring restitution and compliance, not pride." Nora gathered her sheets into a smaller stack, 1 for numbers, 1 for dates. "Ready, Your Honor." Tom reopened his pad, but only to a clean page. "Ready?" Rowan centered the room again, with nothing more than her posture. "The record is clear," she said. The question now is whether the defendant will be. Elliot's fingers tightened around the pen, then loosened. He didn't speak. He didn't reach for a joke. He watched the blue screen fade to its idle glow and waited for what came next. Tom Rourke stood with both hands open, palms forward, voice measured. He didn't mean harm. Nora didn't raise her volume. Ignorance doesn't erase impact. Judge Rowan drew a clean line across the space with her tone. We're here for restitution, not theory. Tom tried to turn intent into something the record could carry. The laughter was misapplied, not malicious. We're not excusing it. We're translating it into responsibility. Nora stepped to the lectern with a single page. Probation lives on compliance, not translation. She looked to the clerk. Report from probation, please. Maya had it clipped and ready. Officer Fowler's report. 2 missed check-ins in the last 60 days. She set the packet for the judge and tilted a copy to the projector. Supervisor notes say the defendant mocked the process. Rowan didn't blink. Mocked how? Maya read, concise. Verbatim. Defendant appeared on video, held up a kitchen timer, said check-in speed run, and logged off after 37 seconds. When told to complete the questionnaire, he replied with a laughing emoji and got places to be. Tom shut his eyes for one beat, then faced it. The defense won't contest the report. We ask the court to note that today the defendant has begun to move in the other direction. The record shows a pattern, Nora said, even as a metronome, not a moment. A pattern can be interrupted, Tom answered, raising one finger to narrow the ask, not to spar. Maya brought the monitor to life again. Supplemental exhibit from the same public account. The screen showed a comment thread beneath the old clip. A single line glowed. The defendant's handle, followed by the tears of laughter emoji, posted at 7:15 a.m. Foundation? Rowan asked. Stipulated, Tom said. This, Nora said, is what the state means by contempt outside this room. Not just the act, the echo. Elliot watched the emoji like it might turn back into a word if he stared hard enough. The small tremor returned to his hand. He pinned it under his other palm. Tom changed lanes. We're not asking you to ignore the echo, Your Honor. We're asking you to decide the answer to it. He slid a typed sheet forward. Payment schedule through term end, signed by counsel. Additional community service beyond the minimum. A written statement of responsibility to be delivered at the park, not online. Rowan read the top line and stopped there. Paper is easy. It is, Tom said. Carrying it isn't. Nora's eyes flicked to the schedule, then to Tom. She reset her stack by a precise 1/8 of an inch. No flourish, just the quiet admission that his move required a new column. She capped her pen and uncapped it again, granting the point with a small, almost private nod before she faced the bench. The state will defer a revocation motion if the court prefers to structure the next phase. It was respect made of actions, not adjectives. The papers straightened, the pen recapped, the space ceded without a word between them. Rowan glanced at Elliot. Mr. Crane, the court is less interested in what you say than in what you carry. Do you understand the difference? Yes, Your Honor. The answer came fast, but not slick. Words, Rowan said, are the lightest part of the load. Maya cleared her throat gently. For completeness, one missed community service block the defendant tried to make up by posting a video encouraging others to volunteer, not accepted as credit. We understand, Tom said, The report is received, Rowan ruled. It's part of the record. Silence gathered. Tom led it. He capped his pen with a deliberate click and folded his hands, then slid his chair a breath back from the mic. It was a lawyer's semaphore for a new strategy. Speak less. Hold more. Across the aisle, Nora mirrored the restraint. She closed her folder and set her fingertips flat on the cover, the way a chess player finishes a move without looking away from the board. Rowan set her hand near the gavel but did not strike. Here's where we are. Damage on video, an unpaid balance, missed check-ins, public mockery. And today, a gesture toward structure. The court will not be hurried. We'll take 5 minutes. Tom started to rise. Counsel, Rowan added, your client remains seated. He should practice stillness. Yes, Your Honor, Tom said, and sat. The order landed in Elliot first as heat, then as shape. He had the old reflex to joke. Practice stillness? Do I get a certificate? And felt it die on the way to his mouth. He pressed his knees together under the table to stop the bounce. He lined the pen with the edge of the money order form. He set both hands flat, then lifted the right one just enough to feel the pulse in his wrist, as if measuring time the way Maya had measured context. He didn't look at the camera. He didn't look for a laugh. He watched the pen and tried on the weight of quiet. Rowan stood. The room followed her before her feet moved. 5 minutes, she said again. She turned, and her heels met the stone. The sound was measured, unhurried. 1 click for each step down from the bench. 1 click for each lesson a joke can't carry. The door closed softly behind her, and the room held its breath without being told. The hallway outside the courtroom was all stone and hush. Cool air, a faint stairwell echo, floor wax and old coffee. Tom guided Elliot to a bench beneath a framed courthouse map. The bench creaked once and went still. Apologize, Tom said, steady, not scolding. Not a speech, a sentence, own the harm. Elliot let out a short laugh that didn't land. Apology's just another performance. Performances end, Tom said. Responsibility doesn't. Footsteps approached. Clerk Maya walked with her phone in hand. Calm, focused. She slowed, glanced at the screen, and exhaled through her nose. The glow edged her fingers. What? Elliot tried. Bad Yelp review? Maya turned the screen so both men could see. A comment under a courthouse clip read, "Judge will roast this clown." Beneath it, the thumbnail looped a few silent seconds from another case. A man shouting over his own attorney as the judge waited, unmoved, the outside world feeding on spectacle. The courthouse bubble ran on order. The feed ran on noise. The contrast did not need to be explained. Elliot's mouth closed. The hallway seemed wider and quieter at once. The chorus is always out there, Maya said. The court ignores it. You should too. A beat. But ask why they think they're right. He looked past them toward a door marked Payment Office. He stared long enough for a choice to start forming. What does restitution even mean? He asked. No spin. Just the question. Paying back more than you took, Maya said. Money, time, dignity, sometimes all three. More than I took, he repeated, testing the weight. Start with what you can carry today, Tom said. Money order, service that counts. Then keep going. Elliot stared at the thin wave and dot tattoo on his wrist, then let his hands fall like he was done trying to hide it. They think I'm a clown, he said, softer. Maybe I acted like one. Clowns need an audience, Maya said. Probation doesn't. He drew a breath and held it. If I say I'm sorry in there, it'll sound like I'm auditioning. Then don't audition, Tom said. One sentence, no adjectives. Look at the bench, not the camera. The camera isn't on me, Elliot said. It was on the fence, Maya replied. On his hands. He blinked, and something in his eyes eased, like the air had warmed a degree. So I fixed the fence I made, he said, not the story I told. That's closer, Maya said. For a moment, none of them spoke. People passed, an officer with files, a woman pushing a stroller, a man talking to himself while hunting the elevator. The building kept its steady weather. The three of them stayed inside it. Tom checked his watch. We've got 2 minutes. Elliot glanced at the payment office sign. If I pay now, it's just a start. That's all it can be, Tom said. Starts multiply. Elliot turned his shoulders to face them both. When I said attendance is 90% of justice, he said, that was wrong. Fixable, Tom said. If you act. Maya slipped the phone into her blazer pocket. Restitution isn't attention, she said. Nobody claps for paying a debt. She nodded at the door behind them. The only sound you get is a stamp. Elliot pictured it. A stamp, a date, a line that didn't talk back. He stood. Payment first, he said. Then I'll say less and listen more. You don't have to be silent, Tom said. Just say less. Elliot gave a small, plain nod. I can do that. They walked, not fast. The vent kicked on and hummed a thin ribbon of air across the floor. Tom kept a step behind, giving Elliot space. Maya stayed by the wall, watching the bench clock count down the recess. At the window, Elliot spoke to the clerk in a voice meant for one person, not a crowd. Money order toward restitution, please. A form slid through the slot. He took the pen. His hand hovered for a second, then steadied. Numbers went down. Amount, date, signature. He didn't look around to see who noticed. Tom waited for the amount line to fill, then tapped the glass with a knuckle, a private signal. I'll file the schedule today. We'll adjust your hours with the supervisor. Elliot nodded. More than I took, he said again, this time like he meant to remember it. Down the corridor, a door opened. A bailiff's voice carried, back on the record in 1 minute. They turned. Maya rejoined them without comment. The hallway felt shorter now, the courtroom closer. At the threshold, Tom angled toward Elliot and kept his voice just above a whisper. Now you start to get it. Elliot drew one quiet breath and let it out. He didn't reach for humor. He reached for the handle and pushed the door open, to the bubble that runs on order, not noise, and to whatever the record would make of him next. When the record resumed, the room felt tighter, as if the walls had leaned in to listen. Judge Rowan took her seat. Maya confirmed the time. Nora stood at the lectern. Tom angled his chair toward his client. Mr. Crane, Nora said, voice level, do you understand why this restitution matters? Elliot leaned toward the mic with a thin smile he should have retired in the hallway. Guess I owe a broom too. The gavel cracked once, clean and controlled. Rowan didn't raise her tone. Every laugh unpaid becomes another debt. She let the sentence land. This court is patient. It is not amused. The old reflex died on Elliot's face. He looked down, and his eyes fell straight to the money order receipt, peeking from Tom's folder. The line he'd just tossed, about a broom, met the paper he had signed, and the two ideas didn't fit in the same hand. Nora stayed with the point. The city repaired what you broke. A neighbor recorded what you did. You posted and promoted it. Restitution pays back more than a receipt can show. Tom lifted a palm to signal silence. Your Honor, the defense acknowledges the court's concern. Rowan turned to Elliot. With 3 corroborated sources and a live victim impact, jail is back on the table. This time, the warning didn't just hit him. It traced the path of his own conduct. Elliot's fingers slipped to his wrist and found the small wave and dot tattoo, the same mark frozen on the screen an hour ago. He pressed there once, like checking a pulse, and stopped moving. We are not there yet, Rowan said, but do not mistake the direction of travel. The room stilled. The bailiff stood at ease. Maya held her pen just above the pad. Nora's files sat squared like bricks. Tom leaned in, the way a coach leans into a huddle he intends to win. Mr. Crane, Rowan continued, in plain words, what did your joke cost? Elliot swallowed. Money, time, dignity. Whose dignity? She asked. His, he said, eyes flicking toward the blank monitor where the victim's hands had been. Mine, the courts, the cities. Rowan gave a single nod. Closer than you were an hour ago. She turned to counsel. Choice, then. I rule now, with custody and live consideration, or I allow 5 minutes for counsel to confer and bring me specifics, payment that has begun, hours that will happen, and behavior that will change. Tom was already rising. The defense asks for 5. Nora didn't object. The state will listen. Rowan set the clock with a tap of the gavel. Use them. They moved to the side table. Maya placed a small timer on her desk where everyone could see it. 4 minutes, 52 seconds. Tom leaned close, voice low and direct. That broom line almost bought you a cell. I know, Elliot said. Then act like you know, Tom replied. Receipt in hand, weekly plan, dates and amounts, extra hours under supervision, a plain statement at the park. He slid a blank pad across. 1 sentence each. Say less. Mean more. Nora stepped in just close enough to be part of the circle without breaking it. She kept her voice smooth and surgical. Make it verifiable, Mr. Rourke. Paper isn't payment unless it clears. Hours aren't service unless someone signs. Tom met her eyes. You'll have signatures. Nora's gaze dipped to the money order receipt, then back up, a precise acknowledgement. And no adjectives, she added. Adjectives are where people hide. Tom almost smiled. On that, the state and defense agree. Maya glanced at the timer. 3 minutes. Sentence 1, Tom said, tapping the pad. Elliot wrote while speaking, as if the words needed to hear themselves. I broke something that protects people. He kept going. I mocked the repair and ignored the bill. Then the last line. I'll pay what I owe, do extra hours, and tell the kids at the park that the harm wasn't funny. Good, Tom said. Now make the dates real. Elliot added them. Fridays, biweekly amounts, end of term paid in full. It looked like work, not talk. Nora rearranged her stack. Exhibits left, ledger summary right, a narrow strip of conditions in the center. If today's payment is confirmed and your dates hold, the state will defer a revocation motion, subject to immediate review for any miss. Understood, Tom said. We'll file the receipt before we sit. The timer showed 1 minute, 14 seconds. Elliot glanced toward the clerk's window. I can take this now. You can walk, Tom said, and you can do it after we state the plan. Order matters. Maya lifted the timer and carried it to the bench. 15 seconds. Tom squared the pages and capped his pen. When the judge asks if you understand, you say yes. When she asks what changed, you say the record did, and you listened. Elliot nodded. His eyes landed on the receipt again. He slipped it into the inside pocket of his hoodie like it was a pass he didn't intend to misplace. The gavel tapped once. Rowan returned to the center with nothing but posture. "Back on the record," she said. "Counsel?" Tom stood. "Your Honor, payment has begun. The defense will submit the receipt within the hour. We propose a weekly plan with fixed dates and amounts through the end of term. We agree to additional supervised service hours beyond the minimum, and the defendant has prepared a brief acknowledgement to deliver at Westbrook Park." Rowan turned to Nora. "The state will defer a revocation motion," Nora said, "on the condition that any missed payment or missed hour triggers immediate review." "Accepted," Rowan replied. "Mr. Crane, look at me." He did. With 3 corroborated sources and a live victim impact, custody remains on the table. If you turn this plan into more paper without action, the table will tip. "I understand," he said. "And one more thing," Rowan added, letting the quiet do half the work. "Would you risk jail just to protect your pride?" No one answered. The question sat where his old jokes used to live, and it weighed more than all of them. Judge Rowan set both hands on the bench. "Counsel, I'm considering a structured public restitution order. There is precedent, State v. Moritz, 1988, allowing restitution that repairs the harm and teaches responsibility, if it's specific, supervised, and tied to the offense." Tom Rourke nodded. "The defense supports that." Nora Whitaker stepped to the lectern. "The state doesn't want publicity stunts." "Not publicity," Rowan said. "Accountability." Maya Johnson lifted a notepad. "I can coordinate with parks and community services, conditions and reporting." Rowan faced the defendant. "Mr. Crane broke a fence that protects children from a sloped drop. He mocked the repair. He ignored the bill. This order will address money, work, and the lesson." Elliot sat forward, hands linked, silent. "First," Rowan said, "full financial restitution. Weekly payments every Friday by 4 p.m., beginning this week. Any miss triggers immediate review." Nora's pen hovered. "Approved." "Second," Rowan continued, "additional community service above the minimum, performed at Westbrook Park or a comparable city site. Manual tasks tied to the offense, assisting fence repair, clearing litter along the slope, placing safety signs. No camera, no live stream, no edits." Tom gave a brief nod. "Understood." "Third," Rowan said, "a public acknowledgement. Mr. Crane will deliver a short, plain statement to a youth group at Westbrook Park. 1 sentence on what he did, 1 on who it harmed, 1 on how he's making it whole. Then he will answer a few questions from a supervising adult, with Clerk Johnson present." At that third condition, Elliot's shoulders tightened, then settled. He drew a slow breath, eyes flicking to the memory of the bent sign and the small faces that would be watching. The notion of talking where he had performed his joke touched something raw. His mouth opened, closed. Then he nodded once. Small, but real. Nora kept her tone even. "We'll need guardrails." "They're built in," Rowan said. 3 sentences only. Clerk Johnson approves the text beforehand. If the defendant veers into self-promotion, the session ends and we revisit custody. Tom answered simply, "We accept." Rowan added, "Fourth, a 1-page handwritten reflection, kept on file, not posted, explaining the difference between attention and accountability. Maya spoke without looking up. I'll maintain a compliance log and file each component as completed. Duration? Nora asked. 6 months of supervision, Rowan said. Monthly check-ins with the clerk, documented by signatures from city personnel or approved supervisors. If he finishes early, check-ins continue to ensure payments stay current. Nora offered one more bracket. The state asks for online silence. No posts, comments, or reactions about the incident. Action on the ground, not on a feed. Rowan turned to Elliot. Do you understand that? Yes, Your Honor. Good, Rowan said. Justice teaches louder when the guilty must explain it. Tom cleared his throat, switching to logistics. We'll need a slot for the youth session. Maya had it ready. Parks runs a Saturday program at Westbrook 10 to noon. We can assign 15 minutes under Pavilion 2 near the repaired fence. Chaperoned, no filming. And if anyone tries to film? Nora asked. The session pauses until phones are down, Rowan said. If it becomes spectacle, we end it and set a custody hearing. Elliot raised a hand slightly. May I help fix the bent sign under supervision? You may assist, Rowan said. You will carry tools, not the camera. I understand. Rowan looked to Maya. Outline the schedule on the record. Maya read, crisp and brief. Payments due Fridays by 4 p.m. Receipts uploaded by 6. Service 2 evenings per week or 1 weekend block, supervised and initialed on the log. Youth session, first available Saturday. 3 sentences pre-approved. Monthly review the first Monday at 9 a.m. With the clerk. Add this, Rowan said. 1 missed payment or missed block sets a hearing within 72 hours. Custody remains in live consideration. Nora capped her pen. The state is satisfied. Tom slid the 1-page plan toward his client. Read it. We'll sign. Elliot scanned the lines, lips moving without sound. Pay, work, speak plainly. When he reached the 3rd condition again, he paused. Just long enough to picture the pavilion, the repaired fence, and a kid asking why he thought it was funny. He didn't look for a clever answer. He signed. Maya stepped forward with forms. Supervision agreement, service log, statement template, online silence condition. Elliot signed. Tom countersigned. Maya stamped each page, a firm, practical rhythm. Nora added one last clarity. For the youth session, attire and conduct. The defendant appears as himself, not as a performer. Rowan made it plain. Mr. Crane will wear plain clothing appropriate for service. No slogans, no dramatics. He appears as a citizen who owes a debt. If he fails that test, we end the session and set a custody hearing. Yes, Your Honor, Elliot said. Rowan leaned back. The order assembled. Mr. Crane, when you broke the fence, you taught the wrong lesson. This order requires you to teach the right one. By work, by payment, and by words that fit the harm. She let the room take that in. You started today by making noise. You end today by making a plan. Tom placed a steady hand on his client's shoulder and removed it. Elliot breathed once, then offered a line he tried to keep honest. Guess that's my next performance. Let's hope it's your last, Rowan said. She tapped the gavel once. We'll take 10 minutes to finalize paperwork. When we return, I'll set the dates formally. Maya gathered the forms to copy. Nora restacked her files and closed the top folder with a neat touch. Tom checked the clock and nodded to his client. Elliot sat a little straighter, the receipt warm in his pocket, the 3 sentences already forming in his head. Short, exact, and pointed at a fence he planned to face without a camera. When the court reconvened, the room felt settled, like the shape of a decision was already in the air. Judge Rowan took her seat and looked from the state to the defense, then to the defendant. "Mr. Crane," she said, steady, "the court orders the following: probation reinstated, restitution to full payment, per the schedule on the record. Community education service approved and required under supervision." She let each piece stand on its own. "Miss one payment or one service block," she added, "and we will set a hearing within 72 hours. Custody will be in live consideration." Elliot stood with his hands at his sides. "Thank you for not locking me up," he said, barely above a whisper. "Don't thank me," Rowan replied. "Carry it. A beat. Mercy only holds when it carries weight." Nora stepped forward with a stapled packet. The state's draft order reflects the court's findings: payment timeline, service conditions, youth session guardrails, online silence. Rowan signed the first page and passed the packet to the clerk. "Filed." Maya rose. "For the record, payments due each Friday by 4 p.m., receipts uploaded by 6. Service hours at Westbrook Park or another approved site, supervised by city personnel, initials on the log. Youth session, first available Saturday, 15 minutes under Pavilion 2, 3 sentences pre-approved, clerk present, no recording. Monthly review the first Monday at 9 a.m. with the clerk." She set the pages down. "I'll maintain the compliance file. Any miss is reported the same day." Rowan faced Elliot. "You will arrive early for service. You will dress plainly. You will not speak to cameras. You will speak to the fence you broke and the children who use it." At that, a flicker crossed his face, something quick and unguarded. He pictured the bent sign, then the small, expectant faces under the pavilion. His shoulders squared, not with bravado, but with the awkward courage of a start. He nodded once. "Yes, Your Honor." "And when you pay," Rowan said, "remember you are not buying forgiveness. You are meeting a debt." "I understand. Anything further from the state?" "Nothing further," Nora said. Her posture eased by a degree. Less steel, more purpose. "From the defense?" "Nothing further, Your Honor," Tom said. Rowan rested her hand on the gavel. "The order is entered." She raised it, not high, just enough, and brought it down with a single measured strike. The sound rolled out and faded. No epigram, no curtain line. The weight of the room shifted, away from the bench and toward the table where a young man stood with paper in his pocket and work in his future. Elliot didn't look at the camera. He reached into his hoodie, unfolded the money order receipt, and slid it into the front of his legal pad until the date showed like a headline. Then he took the small card Tom had given him earlier and wrote 3 plain words across the top. Friday, 4 p.m. Maya gathered copies. Nora aligned her folders. Tom touched the edge of the pad and let go. Elliot capped the pen, pressed his palm once against the card, and turned toward the door. Not finished, not forgiven, but finally pointed at a beginning. Late afternoon stretched across Westbrook Park. The repaired fence stood straight, its bolts glinting in the light. Elliot Crane worked a push broom along the path, sweeping leaves into quiet, orderly lines. A handful of kids sat on the curb under Pavilion 2, elbows on knees, watching. He cleared his throat. "Once I thought jokes could fix anything," he said. "If people laughed, I figured the damage didn't count." Maya stood a few paces back, clipboard steady. Farther off, Judge Rowan watched from the shade, sunlight outlining the edge of her gavel. No speeches, just presence. Elliot tipped the dustpan, emptied it, and looked at the fence. "I broke something that kept you safe," he said. "I made fun of the fix. I ignored the bill." The words sounded plain enough to stay true. A small girl lifted her chin. "So what did you learn?" "That sorry is a start," Elliot answered. "Not the end." He smiled a little, tired but sincere. "You pay. You work. You stand where you messed up and say it plain." Respect grew in the silence where laughter had once broken the ground. The wind stirred the gold leaves, light shifting across the posts. Maya wrote a note. Rowan gave a single nod. Elliot lifted the broom again. Each stroke made a soft rasp on the concrete. Steady, rhythmic, the sound of repair. His heel clicked once against the stone path as sunlight touched the park's carved marker. Justice is not a joke. He kept sweeping. The rasp of the broom lingered as the frame dimmed. In this court, laughter is welcome only when it heals, not when it hurts. The sweep fades out, replaced by the low hush of wind through trees. On screen, Elliot finishes his shift, stacking tools by the fence. He glances toward the pavilion where the children wait for his 3 sentences, then walks toward them. A single gavel strike sounds. Not sharp, but deliberate, like the heartbeat of a promise kept. Not all lessons are funny. Some are earned. Elliot stops at the edge of the frame, steady and unguarded. He breathes once, then steps forward into the light. Music. Do you still call it humor when someone gets hurt?